And the Green Party has said it will support the limited changes announced to benefits today, even though they fall short of the full welfare overhaul promised in its confidence and supply agreement with Labour. I asked co-leader Marama Davidson if she considers the changes announced a win.
The report was very clear. Incomes are inadequate. But we've had over 30 years of accrual system, so a start is definitely a win. There's a lot more to do.
But this is your chance to be transformational. Why aren't you taking that opportunity?
We're going to get to our confidence and supply agreement, and you're right. This is urgent, and this is what the Greens support. The Greens support raising core benefits. The Greens welcome the announcements by the Minister today, and we've got to work hard to overhaul the rest of the system.
So when are you going to get to it? Because the press release put out by the Minister today says we've decided not to implement the recommendations to increase benefit levels by up to 47% immediately. So after this budget, you got one more budget left. When are you getting to it?
Yep, and so now is the opportunity for all of us to work together in government and make sure we've got things in place for the next government. The Minister was clear today there's also a 3 to 5 year plan to overhaul the welfare system across the whole. But look, I absolutely know how important it is for families and children that we make those changes, that people need enough to live on. So that's what we Greens are going to work hard for.
So are you going to vote with Labour on these changes, or are you going to exercise some power and protest over it?
Again, this is a start, and so it's important that we support these changes into place, and there's more work to do, Lisa.
Why would you support these changes when they go nowhere near to close to what you want? You've got the power here. You could say, we're not going to support this. Labour wouldn't therefore have the numbers, and you could hold out for something more. Why don't you do that?
Because the government is committed to the Green Agreement to overhaul the welfare system. So this is a start, and of course I agree to the start. This start is important. This start is after nearly 4 decades, over 3 decades of cruelty and a punishing punitive system. So this is important. That we are supporting this start, and there's more work to do.
Why not hold Labour to account here? Why not hold the coalition to account?
And that's our everyday work, and those are the discussions that we'll keep having. The Greens will keep working hard and represent the voices of the people.
But your opportunity is now. They're going to need some law changes to implement this. You're more than halfway through your term. So you're more than halfway through the term in government. Why not hold it out for more? Use Winston Peters' example. He held out for more, no capital gains tax. He has jettisoned the changes to the 3 strikes, and he got his waka jumping legislation. Why don't you take a page out of his book?
Yes, and this is the start of us achieving what we said we would do, of overhauling the welfare system. So I am really pleased to support the start to this work. We've only just received the report, 8-9 weeks ago. Now that we've got the report, the Greens know that we have to work hard to get these changes for the people who have called for them all around the country, and that's what we're committed to doing. This isn't the end of our work, this is the start.
But almost everything contained in this report you knew or wanted beforehand. So what are you going to do to get these changes if the government hasn't agreed to them? Because there was a list of, 2 or 3 things that the committee said needed to be done right now, and they're not going to be done right now. So what are you going to do?
We agree. One of the priorities that the panel highlights in the report is that incomes are not enough, and I am telling people that yes, that is my job, that is the Green Party's job, to make sure that we work hard and get that agreement across the line. And now that we've got this report, the independent report that is very clear on what we need to change, that's absolutely the work that we've got to go. So this is a start, and we've got to keep going.
Aren't you sick of the taste of dead rat?
Again, Lisa, we've just got this report, and I agree. The Greens agree with nearly all of the recommendations in it, and we agree with the urgency of the changes that need to be made for families. So we will keep working hard. We will keep working with our partners to get these changes.
Those are just words, Marama. those are just words. What about actions? You have the opportunity to leverage some power here. Why don't you do that? Have you considered not voting for these changes?
We will absolutely support these changes, Lisa, because these changes...
Well, you just give away your power doing that, don't you?
These changes are important for people who have been penalised with a harsh sanction that should never have been there in the first place. So we will absolutely support the removal of this sanction, and we know that it's important that we keep working hard for the rest of the system and to get a true overhaul as well.
So are you basically telling me that anything's better than nothing here? What about transformational?
Totally agree with transforming and overhauling, and this is.
But you're not doing that.
They're not sitting in competition with each other, and and I'm also agreeing that the report was clear what we need to do. We agree with that. The Greens agree with that. This is the start. This is a start that has been a long time coming. In fact, we wouldn't even be talking about it if it wasn't for the Greens and the advocates' work, particularly on welfare. So
you're settling. You're settling.
No, we're not. We're not finished, and I've said that from the very start. We're not finished with our work. This is only the start.
So do you think that the people living in poverty in this country, the people who are living with what the report calls toxic levels of stress and just barely surviving without dignity and participation in society, that they can afford to wait?
No, they can't. And the Greens agree with that, and we know how urgent it is. So I hope that we will, that's the work that we know we've got to do, to work with our government partners. We can't do it on our own, and people are desperate, so we will keep doing that work to get these changes across the line.
So you're just going to capitulate to Labor at this point?
No, we're going to keep being the representation, keep pushing for these changes. Again, this is the start. We've got loads more work to do.
And that was Green Party co-leader Marama Davidson.